Welcome back to Art with Kenneth and the Art History series, hosted by artist Kenneth J. Lewis Sr. In this episode, Kenneth continues his large-scale portrait painting of Nina Simone, pushing the work forward by developing the background, strengthening the atmosphere, and building the world around her presence. This is part 2 of the Nina Simone series. In part 1, the portrait was established, her expression, her power, her silence that still feels loud. But now, Kenneth turns his attention to the space behind her. Because Nina Simone's story wasn't just about talent. It was about pressure. It was about discipline. It was about racism. It was about being trained for greatness, and then being denied the world she was promised. This episode focuses on the life that shaped her before the world ever knew her name. Before the fame, before the protest songs, before the stage lights. This is Nina Simone, The Roots of Her Fire, Part 2.
Nina Simone was born Eunice Kathleen Waymon in 1933, in Tryon, North Carolina. She was one of 8 children in a working-class black family, raised in a world where survival required strength and silence. But from an early age, it became clear that Eunice was different. She wasn't just musically gifted. She was musically possessed. Her talent didn't feel like a hobby. It felt like destiny. She began playing piano as a child, and her ability was so undeniable that people in her community began to invest in her future. White families in town helped fund her lessons, not because they understood her humanity, but because they could recognize brilliance when it benefited them. And Eunice absorbed discipline like oxygen. She trained in classical music. She studied Bach. She studied Beethoven. She studied technique with the seriousness of someone preparing for war. Because to her, classical piano wasn't just music. It was escape. It was a doorway out of the South. A way to rise above the boundaries America tried to trap her inside. But even as a child, she learned the truth early. At one of her first public performances, her parents were forced to move from the front row to the back of the room because they were black. And young Eunice refused to play. She refused until her parents were moved back to the front. That moment wasn't just defiance. It was prophecy.
You're watching Art with Kenneth. The world of art seen through the eyes of an artist who truly lives it. This is the rebranded creative platform hosted by Kenneth J. Lewis Sr. where art isn't just talked about, it's created, explored, and brought to life. This is more than a podcast. It's a full experience. From powerful art history storytelling, to real-time art demonstrations, studio conversations, and inspiring creative talk. Art with Kenneth gives viewers a front-row seat to the process, the passion, and the purpose behind every brushstroke. Whether he's painting live, breaking down the legacy of great artists, or sharing the truth behind the creative journey, Kenneth delivers art with authenticity, energy, and soul. And you can experience it in person. Visit the KJL Art Sanctuary Studio at 310 4th Street, Ewing, New Jersey, and explore original works, commissions, and one-of-a-kind fine art available for purchase. For more information, visit www.kjlartsanctuary.com. Art with Kenneth, where history meets creativity, and the studio becomes the stage.
Now back to the show. Because Nina Simone's entire life would be built on that same refusal. Refusal to shrink. Refusal to accept injustice. Refusal to soften her voice. As she grew older, her dream was clear. She wanted to become the first great black classical concert pianist in America. She applied to the Curtis Institute of Music in Philadelphia, one of the most prestigious music schools in the country. She was qualified. She was prepared. She was exceptional. But she was rejected. And most historians believe what she believed for the rest of her life, that she was rejected because she was black. That rejection became a crack in her foundation that never fully healed. Because when you train your entire life for excellence, and the world blocks you anyway, it changes you. It hardens you. It turns your talent into something sharper. Something dangerous. She began playing in clubs to survive, and to protect her mother from knowing she was performing secular music, she created a stage name, Nina Simone. And that name would become the world's introduction to a woman who was not built for compromise. Her classical training never left her. It shaped her entire sound. Even when she played jazz, blues, gospel, or protest music, her playing carried the structure and intensity of classical discipline. And that is what made Nina Simone different. She wasn't just a singer. She was a pianist trained like a weapon. Her voice carried pain. Her hands carried precision. And her mind carried history. And that is why the background of this painting matters. Because Nina Simone didn't rise from comfort. She rose from a place where brilliance was always questioned. A place where excellence was still not enough. A place where a black woman could be genius and still be treated as invisible. So as Kenneth builds the background behind her portrait, he isn't painting decoration. He is painting pressure. He is painting the invisible weight of her upbringing. He is painting the environment that forged her voice into something permanent. This isn't just a portrait. This is a history lesson in oil paint. As Kenneth moves into the background, the goal is not realism. The goal is atmosphere. Because Nina Simone was never just a performer. She was a mood. She was tension. She was elegance mixed with rage. So the background becomes a visual echo of her life. The colors behind her represent struggle, pressure, and transformation. The patterns represent structure, because her classical training was rigid and disciplined. The bold shapes represent resistance, because her spirit refused to be controlled. Every brushstroke in this phase is about building the world she came from, and the world she fought against. This stage of the painting is where the portrait becomes more than a face. It becomes a story. It becomes a presence. It becomes Nina Simone standing in front of history itself. Nina Simone once said she would tell the truth no matter how loud it was. And the truth is, her greatness was never accidental. It was built. It was trained. It was earned. And it was forged through a world that tried to deny her. In this episode, Kenneth J. Lewis Sr. continues shaping this portrait by building the background, because the background is where the story lives. And Nina Simone's story is not just music. It is resistance. It is discipline. It is the cost of genius. Thank you for watching Art with Kenneth. Nina Simone, The Roots of Her Fire, Part 2. Part 3 is coming soon, where the final details will bring Nina Simone fully into focus. You've been watching Art with Kenneth. New live painting sessions and studio videos are added regularly. Subscribe to experience the work as it unfolds. From the first mark to the final decision.